to order, and so Sarah, if you'll call a roll.
Chairman Blair,
Here.
Member Sishka,
Here.
and the record will reflect that Member Orr will be late to the meeting.
Okay. What did I say?
He said water issues.
You said water issues.
Subcommittee on Water Issues. Do you want me to get you some? You want me to get you some smelling salts or something over back
now?
there? Okay, so now that our city attorney stands corrected, let's go to approval of the September 1st meeting minutes.
So moved.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're going to go to the first one. I think it's going to be Leslie, I believe, for a water request for more than 2 acre-feet of water per year, and that is the Justice Center WSA 20-006. Morning, Leslie.
Good
Morning,
morning,
Leslie.
gentlemen. How is everybody doing today?
Living the dream.
All right.
ma'am.
All right. I'll have to ask Sarah, is the packet up available on the screen? Did anybody load that?
I did not, but you are.
Okay, I guess we're going to have to take
Get it
just a
pulled up.
pause here. I apologize.
That's all right.
We were loading some other things, but I thought this would be loaded, available already.
We have lots of time.
Let's see, we'll
We're
go
on the
to
clock.
the internet and find it.
Is this the Water Issues Committee?
Yeah, kind of starting out funny today, huh?
Yeah. Well, it is October. A lot of things funny happen in October.
October surprises.
That's right.
Yeah.
Look at the full moons on the screen.
But everybody has their packets, right?
If you could just go down a little bit, it's there. Right there.
All right, thank you. That probably added to the confusion too, because it's usually up on the screen. Okay, so we're past minutes. Doing this fairly slowly so I don't make anybody sick while we jump around.
There we go.
Okay. I'll just put this map up while I think this one is probably fairly well known because it's been in the papers and there's a lot of activity surrounding it. So this is the Adult Justice Center. So I should give it its full name, Yavapai County Criminal Justice Center. They filed a water service agreement application on September 15th, 2020. They are looking at build-out. This property, it obviously already has some structures on it, but with this project, they're looking at a 600-bed jail, 2 court chambers, and a behavioral health services piece as well. The applicant provided a demand analysis, and they believe that this is going to require 58 acre-feet at build-out. They also looked at it just as in terms of water demands based on their total fixture count, and they believe that's going to be about 12.2 acre-feet. So overall, just over, just at 58 acre-feet for this complex that's going to be built, and then the domestic side for taking care of the people that will be in the building is 12.2. It went through all of its usual, you can see it in your packet. There's just a really basic checklist based on a simplified policy that was adopted in November 2019. So the dates and the check marks are there. Your action today can be to move to recommend this project and the requested water of 58 acre-feet to the council. And I'd be
That's full build-out. Okay. Steve, you have any questions?
I really don't, Steve.
I don't have any questions. Anybody on the phone have questions?
I don't have anybody with their hand raised for this
Anybody
item,
publicly questions?
and I don't have any comment cards.
Okay, I would support a motion to move this request on to city council.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that'll be going to the city council agenda for water for Yavapai County's facility there. Item number 6 is infrastructure topic, pumping versus recharge, January through August 2020 update.
Yes. I'm
That you again?
scrolling. It's me.
Okay.
I'll step back in just after this one. Okay. So, as you recall, this was a requested standing item for your agenda. And what it's housing is the provisional data that we have as of August 31st, 2020 for recharge and pumping. And the graph actually falls on the next page here. So, to walk through the graph just briefly, the x-axis has the months on it of the year, this year, and the y contains the acre feet. So we're looking at June, July, now we're at August, right here. The hatch mark shows the waters delivered to the recharge facility, available to recharge. And then the blue bar shows the city's pumping. So in August, we were pumping 860 acre feet and change, and the recharge was 186 acre feet. We'll look at the total pumping. So the total pumping year to date is 4,994 acre feet, and the total recharge is 4,642. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, or I'm sure the Public Works Director would be happy to answer questions if you have any on this topic. Otherwise, it's showing you what you'd request is just to keep looking at what happens throughout the year, and we're looking at the recharge overall.
I have a question. When you look at the August blue line, so to speak, as well as July, June, those typically are summer months. What do those blue lines share with us, Leslie, about how much of that is outdoor watering?
You know, this one probably wouldn't capture it, although we've done some work where you kind of draw a line through here looking at your winter numbers and say if the line was roughly here, that generally people use below the line indoor. This is indoor water use, below the line. This is the imaginary line I'm trying to show. Then above would be the outdoor water use. And
It's
so
almost fair to say that the water use doubles in the summertime based upon outdoor
it
watering.
increases, but I'd be hesitant to say doubled.
Okay,
It
40%.
looks like this year it did, but recall we have had very little rainfall this
Correct.
past summer.
Okay, Mr.
So
Shiska.
everything's seasonal based on what you get.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Leslie, I did a little calculating here, and it's very Neanderthal accounting, but I did some. It looks like if we stayed with the average right now through 8 months and extrapolated it to 12 months, we'd end up with about 7,491 acre feet as far as being pumped this year. What do we normally pump?
In the high
What have we normally
6,000,
recently
so
pumped anyway?
Like 6,800 is what we
Okay.
generally see.
Okay.
But we have a lot of activity in town and a dry summer, so it's going to go up. But I should jot that number down and see how close we are when we do our final numbers
Yeah,
for the
that would be
Department of Water
fun. That would be
Resources
fun
and
to
see how
see.
close
What was
we
that
are.
number you had?
7,491 acre feet. If we extrapolated forward the average of 8 months.
Okay.
Got a mental note. We can compare notes at the beginning of next year when we file the report.
And Leslie, what is the I guess you'd say the ADWR, the illegal amount we are authorized to pump? I always forget
Overall?
that number. Is it 11,000?
Yeah, I didn't bring that number with me. So if we exclude Big Chino, we're more like 11,000.
Right.
If we add Big Chino, we're closer to 14,000 change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any
I
other
have some
questions?
wonderful diagrams on those, but I think that everybody just wants the lump sum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody with their hand up?
Nope.
Any questions out there? Public? Okay, let's go to item 7, conservation topic updates.
Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to Kay Sido, and she'll walk you through the conservation pieces that she has. I'll pull this up for you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Let me say how happy I am to be working for the city and for living in this beautiful city. So I'm really glad to be on board. We sent out a lot of rebate postcards beginning last month. We have 3,672 homes that have septic tanks. It's a pretty big number. The first week, we mailed 656 of those cards to Chino Valley.
Before you go any further,
Oh.
3,672 on septic systems that are inside and outside the city of Prescott but receive city of Prescott water.
Yes, water customers, yes.
Okay, so there's not a fine line drawn, a city, I guess you say boundary line drawn when it comes to water. It's those septic systems that receive city water.
Yes.
All right, thank
Yes,
you.
Mark Woodfill ran a special query to pull these numbers out.
3,672 septic systems.
Yes.
Do we know how much water we're sending those folks?
I don't off the top of my head, no. So the very first week, I sent all of the ones that went to Chino Valley customers, which were 656 of those. Those were mailed the first week. This was about a month ago we started. And I also went ahead and mailed out all the ones that are homeowners who live out of state. 169 of those, and if you're curious, 95 of them are California addresses. In
That's all?
Yeah. In Prescott, I've mailed now, well, I don't actually do the mailing. The utility billing takes care of that for me, but about 1,000 postcards were just mailed in the last couple of weeks around Prescott. And I still have postcards that are not in Yavapai County but are in Arizona. Those are 373 of those, and I haven't mailed those yet. I wanted to space them out. Didn't want to send almost 3,600 postcards in 1 week. Wanted to separate out the phone calls. So that's why we're sending about 450 to 500 postcards out each week.
On the 1,000 that you sent out in the city, were they targeted to any special area?
No, I just did it by address, Prescott, and I just have a separate box for all my Prescott area postcards, and I just reach in and grab them out, a handful at a time, and send them over to utility billing, about 450 to 500 a week.
Do you have a copy of what you sent to them? What does it say on the mailer you sent out?
Oh, the postcard? Yes, we have it on the website if you
Okay.
want to look at all, but it says that if they for every toilet that they replace, they get $100 plus 50 because they're on a septic tank. So $150 rebate on their water utility bill for every toilet replaced, and $250 for a washing machine.
So are we able to, Mr. Woodfill or somebody out there, are we able to get more targeted with sending those out to? We know our septic customers in the city of Prescott. If she's sending postcards to the city of Prescott, it would seem to me that we would target those to like North Prescott, the 400 plus, I think that we have out there, and to Antelope Hills and the ones that are in the city. Can we separate that?
Well, again, it was just a query dump to an Excel sheet, so it can be sorted in any way you want to do it. I guess just kind of trying to think what would be a septic's a septic. We need to.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is if she's sending them out just as addresses, I might have a brand new house, which
Yeah,
it means
that's
absolutely
true.
nothing to me. So that seems to me to be a waste of time.
We could so your proposal would be to more focus on the older parts of town where the
Correct, because those are the ones that probably don't have water-saving toilets or washing machines, where as today it's common practice that that's all you can buy when you build a new home. So rather than see maybe 100 of those go to the Dells where they're all new houses, I'd rather see there be, we got a head shaking. Don't let your neck fall apart.
We definitely have some confusion.
Okay,
So the only addresses that are receiving the postcards, the information, are addresses that have water service and not sewer,
okay, perfect.
okay?
Correct.
We are focusing on the unsewered areas.
That's what I want to know.
So they're gonna go to North Prescott. They're gonna go to Perkins area.
Okay.
Mountain Club.
Okay.
Well, Mountain Club will be in the county.
Perfect.
But yes, that's who we're focusing on.
So thank you for that clarification. And do we have a way we can track the responses that come back from those?
Well, they have my phone number, and so I take some calls.
Okay.
Not as many as I would hope, but the Prescott ones, as I mentioned, have only just started going out in the last couple of weeks. About 1,000 cards have gone out.
Okay.
Chino Valley response, I have had maybe a dozen calls. They were sent out the first week, about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I'm just optimistic, and I don't get all the phone calls. Some people do actually apply online, and I wouldn't be aware of those. They can find the lists of washing machines online. They can do a lot of the work online and file electronically if they choose. It's going to take a little while to see how the numbers finally add up.
Well, I think that we're doing the right thing, Steve. I don't know how you think, but at least, doing something's better than nothing when it comes to a focus on saving water. They aren't on a sanitary sewer system, so if we can save water by changing their appliances and being a part of that, I think it's a positive thing that we've been talking about doing.
I would totally agree. And maybe Leslie, the question that I asked here that she really couldn't answer, I probably shouldn't have asked her, but how much water are we sending these people we have their addresses, we know who they are. How much cumulatively are we sending these folks with water accounts, but they're on sewer? I mean, they're on septic. Can we find that out?
Or an average, anyhow.
Councilman, yes. We actually are cleaning up our query of these accounts that don't have sewer, and in the other committee that our illustrious attorney thought was today, we're doing it for that committee, but that will provide us the ability to give you the water consumption that they are using. I've actually pulled that number, I just don't remember it, but I can provide that for your next meeting so that you can know what we're pumping to unsewered houses.
Yeah, that would be great, because by that we could extrapolate out how much, if they were on sewer, how much we could recharge versus
Yeah, and that's,
how
again,
much they're not recharging by being on septic.
exactly, and that's the reason I did it,
Okay.
again, for that other committee. And it's not a lot, but it is something. They generally are our smaller water users, because a lot of these are outside the city, and the water is relatively expensive when you're outside the city.
When you say relatively expensive,
30% more.
30% more, what does that mean to a general water bill? I mean, you have an average water bill, and let's use my water bill. I know you have it.
I do. We're going to actually have it up at the next item, so we can look at that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
You let me use it. So
No,
we're gonna have it up on the
because I
screen.
think the point being is that we can show by looking at my water bill, if you do a 30% surcharge on it, what I'd be paying if I were in the county.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Huh? Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I understand. My garden loves me. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'd also like to mention that after the meeting where you said some of you council members would be willing to talk to various HOAs, I did reach out to HomeCo. Didn't hear back right away, but she finally did come back and said that she would like to see what kind of items we would want to include in their newsletter. And she'd also want to check with the HOAs to see how receptive they are to the idea of council members addressing them. So I have put together some messages about our rebate program and also a 2-page flyer with some pictures that shows some of the rebates they could get, like the rainwater harvesting and such. We have some nice pictures for that. And that's almost done, and in fact, that'll be done today. And then we would like to, Gwen and I would like to meet with the Homecomb representative and sort of ease her concerns about what our plans are for the newsletters and meetings,
Right.
and see if we can't allow you to have a platform at some of
Well,
those.
I understand that Homeco serves as a filter, but it's ridiculous that they would serve as a filter, not getting information out to their communities. A lot of times those communities, the only time they get updated information that they really pay attention to is at the annual meeting. I've been to a lot of those annual meetings, and the rooms are full. And a lot of times they'll get newsletters, but, you know, sometimes that face-to-face is so much better than getting a newsletter that lays on your counter underneath a bunch of other stuff, and then you do a housekeeping and you throw it away and you don't even look at it. So,
Well, we
yeah, you know,
agree with that, and that's why
Yeah.
we do want to see if we can't sit down with the Homeco rep and face-to-face.
yeah, I think we need to work on that very hard to make sure that happens.
Okay.
All right? Thank you.
All right.
Anything else, Mr. Shiska?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other comments out there? Any hands up?
I do not have any
Nobody
hands up.
waving on the phone?
No.
Okay. Let's go to the, believe it or not, the last item, item B on number 7, would be conservation information on the city's utility bill. Mr. Woodfill.
Okay, you're in good shape. So just recall that you had asked us to maybe look at some different messaging on the utility bill, things we might be able to do, and so Mark's going to walk through that.
Sorry, I'm looking around. I get these
I know the bar's right now.
reflection. I think I'm looking at 12 different people through here. It's crazy.
Thank
But you look good, Mark, looking through here.
I always look good as further away or cloudier it can be. Mark Woodfell, Budget and Finance Director. Of course, utility billing does fall under finance. Talked to Kay and about your discussion last week about stars on bills, or not last week, last month, our other conservation things. I think it's important that we kind of take a quick look just kind of through the utility bill and talk about how that might not be the most effective way to communicate and some other ways that we should look at possibly pursuing. So if you could bear with me, I just have one slide. Well, that's nice. How can I move that? Can I move that green box? Oh, well, that's fun. It says utility bills. So just to clarify, our utility bill is not just a water bill. It's a water bill, a wastewater bill, and a trash services bill. In addition to all the individual components of those 3 rates, which are significant, other things we bill on there include the streetlight fee, the landfill closure, the aquifer protection, service connection, disconnection, additional trash charges, reimbursements for water rebates related to conservation. A lot of items on a very small area of the bill. We prepare, just as an FYI, about 300,000 bills a year, billing almost $38 million. It's a large amount. It equates to about 8,000 bills per clerk per month because we do not have a ton of clerks in the department. We deliver bills a variety of different ways. Almost 20% are straight email bills. They don't go through the Postal Service. About 80%, of course, still going through the Post Service. That's an interesting anomaly. We actually outsource our posting. Obviously, it's cheaper to pay a company that does this all the time to stuff and mail bills than to pay a pensioned employee to stuff and mail bills. When we did it internally, we also had about 500 square feet of City Hall that was mailing equipment to be able to post. I mean, there's a lot of costs you don't think of. It costs us about $115,000 a year to mail that 80% of our bills. It's a component we're actually trying to reduce. We're trying to get more people to an e-bill. So with that said, and most of that cost there is the postage, and we do get discount postage rates. That's another thing. Outside vendor can do a lot better than city employees, but it's still a significant amount of mail. So how do people pay their bill? And this, it might be surprising to some of you, about 33% or a third, most of our people pay their bill through what's called e-box, which is where you go onto your bank, you designate the city of Prescott as your utility company, and you will just go in there once a month and say, oh, I have a $40 bill, pay the city of Prescott. Pretty surprising that that's the highest place that our payments come from. Then close second is ACH, which is when you tell the city of Prescott, just debit my account every month for the bills. Another great time-saving thing for our customers. The e-box gives you a little bit more control because you can designate when it comes out. Then only about 17% still mail their bills back to us, which are, of course, there are a lot of people that just will not change. Right. About 10% are using our website to pay their bills directly on the City of Prescott's utility billing website. And then 8% still like to drive around when they get their check and pay their bills and they come through our drive-through or walk up to our counter. Again, from an administrative standpoint, you obviously can probably figure out which one of these is the most costly way for the city to process payments. Of course, it's the U.S. mail. And again, probably secondly would be the counter traffic. Wanted to clarify though, just because 10% of the people pay their bill on our website, we have about 78% of our water customers have signed up on our website and can access their account. And what that, we're going to get into that in a second, but that really is a better way for people to really see what they're paying for, really track their conservation, and provides an option in the future that could be some real potentials to help people with water conservation. So this is a standard bill for an unaverage user named Steve Blair. Looking at the bill, just blowing up the top of it here, of course, the top of it is the stub. Then the section in the lower part of the screen there is the part. And again, as we went through, there's 11 or 12 individual items that make up your bill. We only have room on a bill to print about 6 of them. We don't even have room to break out the aquifer protection fee. We have to include it in the water charges and footnote it on the back. Also, the reads and use data is over to the side, so this individual can see used 27,530 gallons of water in that month.
I had a leak, as you can well tell from the month
Yes.
before what I paid.
Days that are covered, that helps people because bills will fluctuate, and our read dates, we work really hard, the meter readers work really hard to try to keep these consistent. But we will have fluctuations between 28 and 33, which we try to keep those to a minimum because, of course, if you have 33, you're a lot more likely to hit the next tier and have to pay a little bit more. So we try to keep them close to 30. And then, of course, your winter average, 5,135 for this user. The bottom of the bill is the finishing of the line, our comment box, and the graph. Now, the graph is an interesting thing. We've had it on the bill for, I believe, 23 years, and it's taken different forms over that time, and it's been interesting, the comments we get, and probably the comments we get on our bill, a lot of them are around the graph. Some people find this graph too complicated. Again, we try to keep it simple because we have a wide variety of users, and we need to keep it simple. We want them to be able to have useful information, but we don't want to make it too complicated. This graph simply shows last year consumption with this year consumption next to it, so you can see how you're doing compared. So even though Councilman Blair had a leak this August, he used almost the same water he used last August.
Liar.
I'm just going based on the gallons. Possibly his leak
Had a leak last August, too.
okay. Possibly his leak was in September because his September water usage last year is quite high, as you can see. I bring this up, again, the bill is only received by about 80% of our people, only receive this bill. we had the message box, not a great message box. We can't get the detail we need because we have all these different aspects. We have to footnote all this stuff on the back, which, again, people look at this and just go cross-eyed. So the water bill we have used effectively, I think, over the years is water conservation. Again, at one point, we even would put the class average for that month out there on the graph for people as a line graph over it so they could see how close they were to the class average. And I thought it was a good idea. That'll teach me. It was not received as a good idea. It was criticized widely as why are we holding class average out as a goal? And that really wasn't my intent. My intent was just to see where if you were above what everybody's using or below what everybody's using. So anyway, we went back to a simpler form. So with that, I'd like to show you where I think we can make a bigger difference in conservation and where we have more opportunity would be on our website, which, find it here. Okay, I got successfully logged out. That was helpful. Nobody look at my password. It's all these asterisks.
Oh, so that's what your password
Yes, now the world knows. And of course, I have a little more than what your average citizen has because being a city employee. But typically, they have citizen self-service. They can come in, they can see their water account, they can see their bills, they can see the bills they've had, they can look at the detail of the bills. And get this to come up if I clicked it. There it goes. Bill detail. This allows you to see the current bill, and you can see there's a lot of components, a lot more than 6 out there. There's the base charge, the usage charge, aquifer protection, there's tax for inside the city, residential, there is a state tax, there is a per gallon tax charged water utilities as well, sanitation and charges. And again, of that 39 million that we bill each year on all those bills, only 45% of it is actually related to water. We have wastewater, we have other things. Let's see, I wanted to get to
So,
the,
question before you move from there.
whoop.
When we talked about
Too late.
30% upcharge using this address,
Yes.
where does it show what you used and what would that percentage, or what would that?
So as you, we got to go back to the bills. Okay, we can do that, and then we'll come back.
Have a leak?
I actually did have a leak this year, but it was a real leak, and you'll be able to see that. No, just kidding, Councilman Blair.
I'm ignoring you.
Yeah. And my eyes are not what they used to be, but as you can see, my water amount, these two amounts together is roughly $30. So I would pay $40 if I was outside the city. Again, Councilman Blair's numbers would be significantly more because he uses a lot of water. And again, that was the point of our comment here.
You didn't get any rain this year, that's why.
Yeah.
Well,
My
maybe we
sister-
should
my
compare
sister's-
everybody to Councilman Blair.
I believe what's your number there? Can you see it there, Councilman Blair? 303
What number am I looking for?
water charge?
303 for the heck of it.
Yeah, okay, so you would pay $400 for water if you were outside the city. So you can see, $10 is not a lot, but $100 is really something. So you can see why those people who are not in the city do use less water. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to help conserve there. Another thing I wanted to get to on the bill here, other things that help people be able to see things. You can see all the individual charge. You can look at your consumption, and it gives you your consumption back a long way, so you can see what you use. It also gives you a graph. And again, I did have a water leak, a yard leak, and of course, Murphy's Law, it was under the cement, as yard leaks go. I actually had a leak in August and then a leak again here, but we got them both fixed. Although I don't know what my wife's doing now, but we'll have to get on that. This also allows people to change the way their bill is paid. They can switch their way their bill is received, bill is paid. They can do it all here. They can add. They can put in a change of mailing address. They can request change bill, manage bills. It also provides us in the future, which is the future of meter reading. And I mean, this is not 2 weeks from now or 2 months from now or even 2 years from now. But meter reading, radio reads enable us to go to more of a daily read when we get there. Again, way down the road because of the infrastructure cost of putting this on all the meters. Our system here allows ability to somebody who would be able to come in here and look at an individual bill and click on that and be able to see what they used every day. So they could see why their bill was higher this month. Oh yeah, that's right. The family was over or whatever. Something like that will really help, I think, people figure out why their bill is high, understand what it means when they wash their car or whatever, anything that's out there. So our focus in utility billing administration has been to move people to an e-bill because the paper bill just doesn't have enough room to provide the information. We want to push them to electronic payments so that we can save money, so that we can provide more information on the website. And again, 70-some% of our people are already hooked up on the website and they can go out and check their bill. If we could add additional things like daily reads and other things in the future, I think it would help people manage their usage a lot better.
How are you asking people if they will go to e-bill? I mean, for example, I know both the business and my house, I don't mind having an e-bill, but I don't know how to go about getting that changed.
Well, I could take care of that for you. You can stop by the cashiers. You can go through our drive-through. You can do it right on your website. If you have access to your account, you can sign up for EFT auto payment right here. You can, we have been using the message box. We are using it right now for the survey that Councilwoman Orr or Mayor Pro Tem Orr is working on. But we've been using it all this year to try to encourage people to go to electronic billing to save that money, to go to electronic payment, with little slogans like, don't worry about your bill when you're out of town, go to electronic payment and electronic, the people who know more in utility billing come up with the slogans, not me.
I think that would be totally, really, really valuable in areas like Prescott Lakes, in areas like Hassayampa Village, where a lot of these people take a lot of vacations and they're gone for a month, 6 weeks at a time.
It is great to not have to worry about whether your bills are getting paid and not think about it or deal with it when you get back. And again, I put our numbers up against other communities. We have 20% that already just received the bill. We probably have another 15% that receive an e-bill and a paper bill, which is fine. We're trying to push them away from that and not allow that anymore because that means they're probably getting their e-bill and then they're just throwing out their paper bill when they get it. So why should that cost be encouraged? So we are switching those people, but even the payments, you look here, we have 75% of our users do not mail us checks. They either do it through their bank, they do it through ACH, the electronic payment, or they pay it on our website.
No wonder the Postal Service is struggling.
Yeah. Again, it's just a lot better. It keeps people from having to worry about their mail getting stolen and various other problems that there are with mail.
So getting back
And it
to
does not interfere
saving
with
water,
mail-in
how
ballots.
how can we make this system better?
Again, I think as we move our reading system to more of state-of-the-art electronic reading system where we can get daily reads and provide that information to our users online, I think that'll be a big plus to people who want to monitor and look at it. And I'm all for saving water, but the reality is not 100% of our people care about saving water. But there is a few, and it's a growing number. And if we can provide them the data, they may be able to change their habits to help reduce that water usage. But I think that's the biggest advantage that we have is get more people online. They can see a lot more information, a lot more detail through their usage and other things, and then move in the future as we upgrade our reading system, our meter reading system, to have that daily reading and then have that available on the website as well.
And what goes back through the sewer, is that just an estimate?
It is an estimate using the winter average.
Okay.
And that's about the only way you can do that. We've looked, obviously we do rate studies constantly, and, we look at other things, and it has changed over the years, and again, people talk about, well, not all my winter consumption goes down the sewer, so you shouldn't use winter consumption. But the reality is if I use 10% of your winter or 90% of your winter consumption, it just means the rates are going to have to be higher. So, there is just a component. But a big chunk, as you can see from looking at a bill here, let's pull up a bill detail again. And again, this allows you to see your current bill, but you can also, you can actually see the bill image as well. The bill detail, you can see, I forget what my point. My point was on sewer, most of your sewer charge is base, a big chunk of it, over half of it generally, or right around half. It's not all on usage. And again, some places are even going more to all residents have a base charge of, I believe Chino Valley does it that way. Looking to somebody who knows, where it's just $50 a month if you have the sewer. I think usage is a good component because even though it's sewer, it does help people think about conservation. So, again, various things, and like I say, I think the advantage of the website is you can get more information out to the people. We can make it more relevant as we move other projects forward in future years and have more read data out there. And again, our experience in the past with the bills and trying to show people are doing a good job or a bad job has never been received well, frankly. It's, I'm always below, when we had the average, I'm always below average, but I was above average this month. Well, I'm sorry, you use more. I know, but it's my kids were in town. Okay, well, you still use more. Well, I don't want it to show I was above. You get into, people take pride in the fact that they're below average on usage and things, and it doesn't really help. The goal would be to be able to help people find leaks or other things, being able to see what day the leak started, that kind of thing, see if it's still happening would be helpful. With that, I'm sorry I talked a lot. Any questions? Again, if you don't use the online, please use it. There is a lot of good information out there.
Leslie's got a question.
That's why they call me question mark.
And look at Mr. Dothich has got a question.
You want a question first? So, Mark, you had an example of a paper bill, front and back.
Yes,
On the back, we had a conservation message. Can you post that up to the screen?
sure.
Thanks.
Again, wait a second here. The back of the bill, unfortunately, this is, of course, the margin of the page is here. It's not that we scrunch it in the middle. Hold on, let me get it bigger. And this is blown up. It does make it hard for some people to read.
Okay, so for the councils, we do have, it says in that box there, for additional water smart support, see web, and there's a web path there. We used to have something that said, doing your part to live water smart. So we have a very small space, but if that's something that you want to look at for us updating, I don't know what frequency. I mean, we don't want to be changing this all the time, but if
We print the backer 6 months or a year at a time. So we can change it, but keep in mind there's this much space left on the back because we
Right.
can't have it on the back of the stub for those who still use the postal service. So there's not a lot of room. So then you start deciding, okay, well, we don't need to tell people how to pay their bills. Well, that's kind of the point of the bills, is to get the revenue in. So you got to start picking who
So, yeah,
gets the back.
I don't think this subcommittee is looking to change all the text on the back, but there is a limited space that's available. So if there is interest in changing something, what kind of time frame would you need lead time? So if we're
have to
getting towards the
check.
end of the year, if
I'd
we have
have
something.
to, it's not directly on a calendar
It's not
year.
on a
It's just when
calendar.
we run out of stock.
I would like
Run out
to,
of stock, okay,
I'd like to
so-
put on there just a one-line thing that Prescott is a water smart community for information, and then put what you have down there.
I thought we had that somewhere, didn't we? Nope, doesn't look like it. I might
We
have
used
been
to
on
have the
old
older
one.
logo there, and so.
Yeah, that got bumped when we had to add more footnotes because we couldn't get the fees.
I
on
understand. But I just wanted the subcommittee to see, we do have some space there, for those who are still doing on paper. It's not our best mechanism for reaching the community, but there is a little piece there we can look
And
at.
we
so
will
we'll leave it
check
at
with
that.
you before we reorder to see if you guys have.
Yeah.
We'll check with Leslie and
Might
see
have
if
something
there
we
is
can do
any.
there.
Have we had a marketing effort to get people to pay their bills online?
Yeah, we have done, like I say, several things. We've used the front of the box, this box here on the front of the bill. Right now it's talking about the well-being survey because it was a push. But this year we've been focusing there, and we actually have increased our numbers. We've done postcards. We do active sales at the window when people sign up for an account. Would you like to sign up for electronic payment at this time, or electronic receipt of your bill? We've been pushing it, and like I say, I think our numbers show it. You compare those to other utilities, as far as the number of people that are receiving electronic bills, 20% is pretty good. I'd like to see it, obviously. I'd like to see those numbers switched.
Could we focus on certain areas and just see what percentage, let's say, comes out of Hassayampa Village? What percentage comes out of Prescott Lakes?
Obviously, yeah, we could do focus mailings. I guess the problems with mailings, and I don't know how you guys deal with your mail.
I'm just trying to find out, okay, so if in fact we have,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
if in fact we need to focus on Prescott Lakes or on Hassayampa Village, where these people are actually, gone a lot of the year, then, how do we do that? And would that benefit the city by having an increased effort in those areas to get people to go on to electronic billing?
Again, I think that if we get with Homeco
Yeah.
and we're able to have an face-to-face at their annual meeting to take written documentation that is different than your bill, that tells them how to do it, we are getting that out there once again in a different manner.
Exactly.
And I think it will make a difference. So we need to really push on that.
And that's great. I love the ideas. Like I say, we're pushing it because it helps us keep from having to add staff. I mean, it's just a lot of benefits to electronic payment as our accounts continue to grow.
And Mark, along those lines, yeah, I absolutely see and understand the limitations regards to the paper space and such. So then in regards to the electronic side, is there a place in here, like say for instance, when an individual first logs in, can there be a messaging area on this, or is there ability to add additional messaging associated with the electronic version?
Yes, certainly there is. This is an administrative screen for these, like utility billing. We have messaging at the beginning. We can add, we have please enter your information below. That was more when we were first setting up. We have all sorts of places we can adjust the text throughout this. So any ideas you have, be glad to incorporate if you
good idea.
want to get them.
I mean, any one of those things that we can incorporate in, whether it's a once-a-year annual meeting deal or whether it's putting it on the electronic bill, I think we just need to keep doing it.
Yeah.
At some point in time, it'll make a difference.
And it's even better. We have a version upgrade of our financial system scheduled in 2 years. And of course, all this stuff gets better with each release. So it all gets better as we get down the road.
Okay, well, thank you.
Sure.
Anything else, Mr. Shiska?
No, sir.
Any hands up on the,
We do not have anything.
Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry. Leslie Hoy just raised her hand. Hold on one moment. Go ahead, Leslie. You have 3 minutes.
Morning, Leslie.
Morning.
good morning,
everybody. I
Leslie.
just
What would
wanna
what would
throw
a
some
water
thoughts
meeting
out
be
there
without
about
having your lovely
conservation
voice
that
out
I've
there?
been rolling around in my head and figuring out, trying to think, how can we use this? There was a terrific program, a series of 4 programs on PBS recently called Hacking Your Mind. Ignore the obnoxious title, but the the whole series was about how humans think and how various forces use how we think for both bad and good. But in the 4th part of the series, they talked about the importance of keeping up with the Joneses and how that can be used to help encourage positive behavior change. And I keep thinking, I know that Mark said he got a lot of complaints about when the graph was on there comparing people to the class average, but I think that is a powerful tool. But we need to figure out, how can we have a positive competition to save water? And I'm still trying to figure that out myself, but I'm not full-time on figuring out conservation. And then it occurs to me that stories are a big thing now about how can you use stories to communicate. And I was thinking if we could have some compelling conservation stories, maybe if there were leaders in our community and different segments who were conserving or who we could convince to conserve, who could be front and center on encouraging conservation, that could tap into that idea of keeping up with the Joneses. So I just wanted to throw those thoughts out there. I'm still working on it.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thanks, Leslie.
Any other comments out there?
No, sir. That's it.
Public? Anything else? I don't see anything else on the
Good.
agenda.
We got 8,
Did
9,
you have an
and
item
8 and 9 still
Oh,
on the next.
so I need to turn the page.
Yeah,
You do.
novel concept.
Let me get to the next page. Ooh. Oh, okay. Okay, memberships topic updates. That's Leslie.
Hello again. Okay, so the fun part's over. Now we're back to the tough stuff. Just kidding. So part of when you started this year's committee, we looked at different areas you might want updates on over the calendar year. So this is an update on your memberships. Your memberships include the coalition, the Upper Verde Watershed Protection Coalition, and the NAMWA, which is the Northern Arizona Municipal Water Users Association. Why we call these memberships is because we do pay into both of these to be part of these groups. So for the coalition, and I think most of you already saw this, but we'll bring it as an update anyways, they received a grant. And so the grant, or they're in line to be awarded and they have to complete the paperwork. Maybe I should say it that way. So it's a $2.7 million grant from the USDA. It's going to be a 5-year project that begins in 2021, and it's following work. I know that Councilman Blair has already seen quite a bit of this, and I know that probably Councilman Shishka has heard quite a bit about this too. But there was a great effort regarding biomass out in the Big Chino area. So this is kind of the next step of that. So they're going to continue to look for ways to optimize the groundwater recharge. There's going to be science-based planning and hydrologic monitoring. And they're going to use the techniques that they've worked on for quite a few years. So the juniper silt dams that you've heard about and all these different things they've put together in cooperation with the producers out there, the agricultural landowners, and push it further. So I did mention the juniper silt dams, juniper chip wattles infused with biochar. You probably don't have the time to walk into what each of these mean, but I think you generally understand what's happening out here. And they're going to be looking at rainwater harvesting systems as well. So this was exciting news for the group, and they wanted to share that out. It was shared out as a press release, but we'll also have it here. Tomorrow, they actually have a meeting of the technical group. So there I'll have a little bit more information as to, are the papers being signed? How is this $2.7 million being moved? And more of the details. And so I'll provide those when we have them.
So there are people listening, I would assume, and there are folks that don't know what the makeup is of the Upper Verde Watershed Protection Coalition. Can you briefly go through the members that are involved in that?
Yes, sir. So that includes the city of Prescott, town of Prescott Valley, town of Chino Valley, Yavapai County, Yavapai Prescott Indian Tribe. That's the current membership. It has
you.
expanded at one time out to Dewey Humboldt, but we don't have them as a member at this time.
Thank you.
But they're always welcome. I think I should remember or remind of that. So this is a group that's been in place since 2006. I don't know if you have any more questions on that, other than I should mention the next board meeting, Councilman Blair, is going to be October 28th, and it will be in these chambers.
Okay,
So you'll get those
thank you.
bits of information.
Thanks, Leslie, I appreciate that. Item
Sure.
B is Northern Arizona Municipal Water Users Association. Again, it's a group of people, and they have a TAC team, but they're a different group of people. So can you name that group of people?
Different group of people. Yes, and let me just say what they,
Okay.
they're the collective voice for water policy. So in northern Arizona, we group up as municipalities regarding policy issues or legislation that may be coming along the way. Similar, there's a group in central Arizona, AMWA, Arizona Municipal Water Users Association, and then SAWA. So there's a southern group. But our group in northern Arizona includes Flagstaff, well, I should start with ourselves, so we just get out of the way, City of Prescott, Prescott Valley, those communities here. Flagstaff, Clarkdale, Cottonwood, Camp Verde. We do have representation, but not as strong. Arizona Water Company is part of the mix, representing Sedona, because they don't provide their own water service. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anybody.
Cottonwood.
Did I say Cottonwood already? All the three
Payson.
C's, Cottonwood, Clarkdale, and Camp Verde. I always remember them as the
And
three C's.
Payson dropped out.
And Payson has stepped out. They've found their solution through work of external supplies, C.C. Cragen, Old Blue Ridge Reservoir. So they worked arrangements with SRP. And so they're going to hold tight for a while
Okay.
and work with their system that they've acquired. So with them, the NAMWA group, they've been watching these ADWR meetings, so Arizona Department of Water Resources, very closely, as there's a Governor's Water Augmentation, Innovation, and Conservation Council. That council, is a larger group. It's all appointed, but it has subgroups that include the post-2025 committee. So what are our management plans going to look like for water after 2025? They have a group that's looking at long-term augmentation. This means what else are you going to bring to the table to keep yourself sustainable over the years? Their report is out. We've discussed that, and it's been brought forward to you. There's a non-AMA groundwater group, and early on I mentioned to you we're watching this one too because we have property up in the Big Chino, and that's a non-AMA area. And the last one is desalinization group. So they continue to meet. Interestingly, we'll call them, I don't even know how to say their acronym, but we'll just say the Governor's Group. That seems to be our favorite way to say it at this point. On September 10th, they held a meeting that was dedicated to the Arizona tribes and water issues. So even though the governor put together a group, it didn't have representation from the 22 tribes of Arizona. So the tribes are very concerned because they have federal reserved rights. They have settlements they're working on. There's a lot of activity, of course. And so on September 10th, from 9 to 2 in the afternoon, 10 different tribes were able to present and see that there's more to this water picture than just the folks that are in the municipalities or rural Arizona, but also on the tribe lands. Then immediately after almost, on September 15th, they had their committee updates. The director at the Department of Water Resources expanded on the Lake Powell pipeline, the management plans. So once again, what are we going to be doing after 2025? and then the Arizona Reconsultation Committee. So this is the ARC Committee. Each one of these topics are a topic of themselves, and so probably not appropriate to dig into each one of these today. But you can always check and see what's happening with these groups because they post all their agendas. When they're done at the end, they post their PowerPoints, so you're able to keep up on this. And why I bring this up is that as a group, NAMWA, as a group, we didn't know how we were going to drive to all these meetings in Phoenix. And of course, our conditions changed. Now everything's virtual. So these meetings can have up to 70, 80, 100 people on them because everybody's diving in from all across Arizona and maybe outside Arizona as well. So Ron Dobo was trying to take care of us through this, but we still have that issue where not all of us can be on these meeting after meeting. I mean, there are a lot of subgroups and a lot of overarching activity that's happening. So this is NAMWA, related to the governor's group in a nutshell. NAMWA is also looking at the non-Indian agricultural water, so we call this the NIA water for short. Here again, we haven't had a big discussion with the council or this subcommittee in a long time about this water, so this is fourth priority water off the Colorado River. And what is slated to happen, it was supposed to be reallocated in phases in 2013, 2021, and then in 2030. So for rural Arizona, there were luckily negotiations quite a few years ago that at least, we were hoping, 17,333 acre feet would be made available to rural Arizona. And so the folks in this area or folks in NAMWA in general wanted to be able to potentially access those supplies to add to their portfolios. What the group did, and Councilman Blair probably remembers this, but you'll see it at the upcoming meetings with NAMWA, is that they filed a letter with the Department of Water Resources, right? Okay, I'm seeing a head nod, and the request was, can we extend the time period for the reallocation of that rural supply to 2050? Doing that, we could dedicate that water, that 17,300, to storage in Lake Mead to help with these declarations of shortages that are happening. So instead of having that water come out, we would say, well, we can pledge that potentially till 2050 to keep the reservoirs from dropping as we've been seeing, and the subsequent actions that all communities are having to take who are on the CAP canal. And then we were looking for some monetary offsets for the rural communities if they did this, related to the charges that you incur when you're a CAP water user or you have exchanged that water supply. Here again, I tried to put that in a nutshell, but it's one of those topics that we track in water management because these things take a long time. Let's see, two more items for NAMWA. There is a conference proposed for May 2021, and so there's an active group, a subgroup of NAMWA working on that. It's intended for water managers, but it's also for operators so they can continue to have their educational units, and it's to kind of build that community again. We see that always you have to fill the ranks. People retire, so you want to be bringing up the next generation and giving them forums where they are able to meet with other water leaders. And then last, for Councilman Blair mostly, is the board meetings coming up on October 16th at 10 a.m. in Clarkdale. So I think they are going to try to hold an in-person versus a virtual meeting, just so you're aware.
Is that just for TAC or for both?
That's, yeah, board. So board and TAC, we meet on the same day.
What was
Remember
that date again?
I'm sorry, it is October 16th,
Okay, thank you.
10 a.m. Clarkdale. And that should be being loaded on your calendar by
Leslie, I have a
ladies.
question for you. There's 5 AMAs in Arizona.
yes, sir.
Do any of them have an official organization attached to them?
Well, what do you mean by organization?
Well, a body that meets specifically to deal with issues in the AMA.
Yes, sir. I think you're thinking of the Groundwater Users Advisory Council, the one that's appointed by the governor. We call it the GUAC, but it's, yeah, each AMA, based on statute, has a group pulled together to look at AMA issues, but predominantly they're to work with the withdrawal fees. So when we pump in an AMA, and the city does this too, we have to pay each year a certain amount for that. And then they look at other overarching as well. So I think to answer your question, yes, there is. And the name is the Groundwater Users Advisory Council. that's appointed by the governor.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
But there doesn't mean there can't be more groups, but once you have more
Well,
groups, it gets really
yeah.
crazy.
We don't need more groups.
There's a lot of activity. And that's all I have for this membership update, unless you had something that caught you along the way.
I don't have anything.
Okay. I'll move us to the next agenda item on the screen. This is your last one for the day. You want to call it? Or,
Yes.
one?
Number
Okay.
9 is the focus topic, which we try to bring something that, because, no, I'm not going to say because staff doesn't have anything to do. I'd get in trouble with that, wouldn't I? Comprehensive agreement number 1, because there's always so much out there, I guess, evolving and circling around. Our annual water report is coming up. Is that done for the year now?
so make sure we don't have a misunderstanding here. So our annual water withdrawal and use report, that is separate from this comprehensive agreement number 1.
Okay.
So let me run through just a quick reminder of comprehensive agreement number 1.
That would be wonderful.
and
Thank you.
then, we should probably be in good shape. Okay, so the subcommittee had requested a presentation on the latest comprehensive agreement number 1 annual report for July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. Yes, sir. I was like, where's it going?
Mayor Pro Tem is here, I'm gonna have to ask Councilmember Brucing to vacate the room so that we can have a council. Thank you. I'm paying attention, just so you know.
First time for everything.
Sorry, I had a speaking thing I had to do.
Sorry to interrupt.
Let's take a moment to get settled in.
Okay, we're down to the last item, Mayor Pro Tem. It's number 9, the focus topic on comprehensive agreement number 1 annual report presentation.
Okay, welcome to the group today. So this is what you had requested, and what this is entirely separate from the water withdrawal and use report. So the comprehensive agreement, I did work up just a quick background for those that might not be familiar with it, especially people that might be new to the area. So comprehensive agreement number 1 stems from a lot of actions that happened started in 1980, and we can't go through every single one of them, but I did list them for you. And then for further information, we keep the city's website up to date as well. I'm going to switch to the report itself, hopefully. There we go. So as part of the requirements of the contract, we need to prepare an annual report each year to discuss what we did related to the monitoring and modeling of this committee, as well as the financials. This was just completed, actually, September 30th, 3 p.m. sharp. Just kidding. This contains a small amount of text because we don't need it to be overwhelming. We also knew with our COVID conditions, we had people working from home, and things that we were able to produce a little bit easier have become a little more challenging. But what you'll find in the report, and I'll mention this just once again, although I mentioned the website, I have not yet posted this to the website, but it will be posted later this week. The report contains an introduction, so if you're interested, we can you can just kind of read through that. It contains a background, which, why we do what we do. It really involves quite a bit about the data collection monitoring program that was set forth related to the Big Chino. I'm going to stop right here. So the goals. Not going to read through all the goals, but the data collection program, monitoring program, was so that we could gather enough of the existing data, build them into long-term records potentially, fill in the gaps, and then have something that would support a groundwater flow model better than what we had in the past. And as you recall, the overarching issue is that the city, with the town of Prescott Valley and potentially others, by recommendation of the Department of Water Resources, needed to acquire an additional physical water supply because of this area being declared out of safe yield. So the parties moved forward, Prescott and Prescott Valley, SRP that challenged the city's decision and order of assured water supply that had us in litigation for a while. And then to stop that litigation, because we were spending money, we all moved into comprehensive agreement number 1 after a previous agreement was put in place. And now we're all working in a cooperative manner to look at if there's pumping up in the Big Chino, if there will be any effects if any, on the headwaters of the Verde. So these things don't happen overnight, and this is where we're at this point. We're looking at this numerical groundwater flow model. Quickly moving forward, just headings, because you'll be able to flip through this on your own on your spare time, which I'm sure you don't really have any, but with a summary of the annual meetings. So even though we went into COVID-19 conditions, fortunately our group was already very active working through WebEx, one of the platforms, so people don't have to drive everywhere to meet. So our continuity was great through this time frame. We upped our progress calls from Golder. Golder is our modeling firm. They're also very savvy, and we're able to jump on remotely, and we were doing that already. We had an agency stakeholders meeting, and this was July, so we didn't have COVID conditions there, and that was a very productive meeting. We had that here locally, and worked out some of the steps needed to move forward for this project. And then, of course, supplemental meetings. We have a section about executed documents. So we did work with Golder, you approved, because we're the fiduciary of increasing the funding on the Golder side and adding a time extension for the modeling process. USGS needed a little more time and has a no-cost extension that was put in place. And then ADWR, if you'll recall, we drilled 7 new wells out there to help with data-deficient areas. And they worked with us through a fairly low-cost agreement, actually, to equip the wells out there with pressure transducers or have people on site to take physical water level measurements. All parties, we're totally funded on this project now. All the money's in the bank, everybody's contributed. So we're not doing any more annual assessments to everybody. We're complete there. We do like to list our public engagement, so we don't do a lot of this because we're in a development period. We don't have a final report, so we all have to be careful about what we think the report's saying or might say. So all 3 parties are careful in how they present. We do put things on the websites, of course. We had completed reports. So the SRP contract puts forward a water monitoring project. This is the ephemeral stream flow monitoring. You'll see that in Appendix A. And then we're starting to have all of our technical memos come in from our modeling team. So we have 5, 6, and 7 during this time period. Bless you. We have a financial summary, so the project is still healthy. These are based on account balances and expenditures. So on the monitoring side, 1.1 million, and then the expenditures is 238. That would be bad if it was 2 point. So you can see it's a higher balance, but this one is going to start dropping significantly as we start paying out the last of the contracts on the data side. And then we look at the modeling project account. So it's currently at $565,024, and we have expenditures at $413. So these are running pretty tight. And I'll take a moment to explain this because I think it's important. We had to slim down the modeling contract really hard to make it work within the budget that we had that was put together 10 years ago. Okay, so when I came onto the city, they were already finalizing their negotiations and putting money in place for this project based on how they thought they would get the project done 10 years ago. So we could see as time went forward that the modeling was going to cost us quite a bit more. And so we see it as one account because everything was approved as one account. And so when we find cost savings on the monitoring side, we know that we'll be able to move those to the modeling, because modeling is never cheap, ever, no matter how hard you work. And we worked really hard. And so because we knew we had that potential situation, we were looking at where we could have cost savings, and we've been able to find those in various ways. so we could keep our accounts in good shape. So I think the bottom line is overall it's in good shape. I wouldn't let these numbers, so as close as they are, worry you, and I wouldn't put too much into this, the monitoring side being so far apart at this point. We will have a little bit of money to move forward as the contract does talk about us continuing to collect data, and we need to figure out which data pieces are the most critical to make long-term. And then it also speaks to this group potentially rerunning that model every 3 years. So I think all of us that are involved, so your technical team from the parties is John Munderloh from Prescott Valley, Greg Kornrupp from SRP, and then myself has been involved as well. We've worked really hard to keep our monies in good shape and look at what might be coming next. And so that'll be, once we have our ducks in a row, that will be a discussion for the subcommittee and more so probably council as a whole. That's a long time on the financials here, but we keep track of where we expended and on what contracts, so that's in your report. Modeling, same thing. Our monitoring updates, just a brief little, yes ma'am.
Chairman, Steve, can I ask a
Yes,
question?
ma'am, go right ahead.
So Leslie, can you scroll back up to?
Sure.
So our dollar amount on that was 100 and, that Prescott.
Oh,
Where's that? Where, okay, Prescott Valley was 97,000.
let me see if I can get the whole thing, there you go.
And why the difference?
The difference is based on the IGA that we have, a subsequent document with the
Oh,
Prescott
okay,
Valley.
The percentage of
The
ownership.
percentage.
Got it, okay. I got it.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am,
you.
no worries, yep. There's a lot of details to these projects,
I
so.
appreciate that,
Yeah,
yeah.
as soon as I said it, you're like, that's right.
I know, I was thinking,
That's right.
I was just talking about the CARES Act to people, so I was thinking percentage of population.
Oh,
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Okay.
when you roll through that,
Oh.
Leslie, in this report, when you present it to council, you know, we've been dealing with this for how many years?
This is an 8-year project. It was
So
slated that
do we have any
way.
numbers we can share with what's come out of the modeling?
The modeling's not done yet.
Okay.
So we have in contract December 2021.
So
Is
that's
when
they're
the
gonna
model-
compile everything?
Right, so they are currently building the model right now. Yeah, so we're not there yet, unfortunately.
Time projection?
Guess I need to run for another term of council.
Pardon me,
What's the projection to,
for when it will be done? December 2021.
okay, that is the date,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that's in contract. I think we all try to actually say it's going to be September 2021, but, you know, because we push ourselves and set earlier deadlines internally. But I will just have to wait and see what happens. Models are tricky
We have
things.
7 wells that are being monitored 24/7 for how many years?
They're brand new, so they just had that equipment dropped in. The overall network, I can move to some maps if you'd like to see that. I think I might have those in this report. There's already quite a few wells out in the Big Chino. But we always have this issue where there's not enough wells by the headwaters to look for potential impacts. So most of those 7 new wells are near the headwaters area. There's a kind of not a grid, but a scatter of other wells that the Department of Water Resources have been gathering data on for years, and it could range. It could be we have 20 years of data on that well. We could have 5 years of data on that
So
well.
is it gonna be inclusive of the existing wells as well as the new wells?
Absolutely. The model takes in every available data point as long as it's a good data point.
Okay.
It's not one that, you know, is just, you can see it's way out there. Somebody misplaced it on the records. All that quality check is what the modeling team is doing as well. On top of, this is quite a few people are involved in this. We also SRP has their specialized technical consultant. That's Leonard Wrights, or now it's called LRE Water. And then the city's always worked with Southwest Groundwater, that's now Matrix. So we pile on even more expertise because the city never has a bench where you have a full-time groundwater flow modeler. I'm a hydrologist by training, by education, and by years in. Obviously now moved into planning and portfolio management to some extent. I'm not necessarily doing that anymore. But anyways, long story short, this is a data-intensive specialty intensive project. So as things do become more available, then we will have a model we can show you the end results.
But the
But-
7 new wells have been there for how long?
Oh, let's see. 2017, we pulled the contract. I think by the 2018, they were all in the ground. They were all drilled.
Okay, so we're gonna have 3 years worth of documentation.
No, then we had to wait for the ADWR folks to come on board and equip the wells. So they probably started mid-2019. You might have about a year and 3 months of probably water level measurements. And then from here forward, I just had the message probably 2 weeks ago out of the Department of Water Resources. Everything was equipped. They're checking the pressure transducers. They're loading it into their databases there. So,
More exciting things to come in the near future, right?
right. And so we can move to some pictures, because that, although I think you might have a question.
So then
Pro
by
Tem,
December of '21.
is the model is done, the groundwater,
model is
computerized
done,
groundwater
and
flow model.
information from that will take,
There'll be decisions that parties need to make. City will need to make decisions, Prescott Valley will need to make decisions on, what does this council and management want to do related to the Big Chino?
okay,
Yeah,
thank you, Leslie.
sure.
That'll be interesting.
So I'm just going to move through this section really quick because it really cues on maps and things that we have in the appendix. So it's, once again, we really slimmed down this report. These are publications that we have paid for as parties. We pay, of course, a portion for these. USGS completed two reports. The geochemistry report is forthcoming. Crop surveys, I can just go through that real quick. This helps with your demands in the model. And unfortunately, it's in here, but the federal government had a partial shutdown, as you remember, in December 22nd, 2018, to this time period of 2019. The USGS is a federal agency, and so they were struggling and had to play some catch-up. And then we've also known with this COVID-19, getting out there to get crop data, and they do this across the state. It's not just for us up here. They're a little bit behind, so we did not include any of that in this year's annual report. The modeling project, we did a quick write-up on that, so you'll be able to read through that. And our conclusion is that, we're still working on quite a bit here. This story's not done yet. We have expectations for the 2020 modeling, so we're going to have technical memorandum number 8, which is the framework of the model and how it's calibrated to make sure it's running properly to targets, such as what Councilman Blair was asking about. What about the wells? What about this? In a model, you have to have real targets to shoot for to make sure it's working properly. And then we'll have technical memo 9, is how they actually built the groundwater flow model, because obviously these go to court sometimes.
Leslie, I have a question for you on that.
Sir.
I've often thought that being in these drought years would be more valuable to this process than being in a number of wet years. Is that in the ballpark? Is that true?
It depends on which piece of equipment you're looking at, I guess. We were hoping for some really good wet years so that our ephemeral stream flow monitoring, so the stream flow on top of the ground, would tell us more about what's happening in the recharge. So we've been dry for a while. We've had a few good winters, but yeah, I can't
But
say
if
that
we-
we want all patterns, but we're not just looking at 1 year ever. We're looking at the long term to see what this
Sure.
basin usually does. And so this just adds, if it's a dry year this year, it just adds one more piece of the puzzle of what we might look like if we have a continuing wet or continuing dry conditions.
Yeah, I was just thinking from the standpoint of if in fact we can show that the aquifer and the effect on the Verde is viable even in these, with all of the drought years that we've had, then that would give us a real picture of, even if the future was, as dire as it's been, that things would be fine for the Verde and for our aquifer?
That's a big discussion, so I don't know if I can answer that one entirely today. I
I'm
think
not
that you're
really
going to have,
looking-
the Paulden gauge is a stream flow gauge, and that's going to keep telling, those fluctuations. So if it's been dry, it's dry, and you're going to see less surface water going through there. I don't know if that actually gives the protections up into the basin, because then you're also talking, not only is the stream flow component a part of this, but then you have the aquifer itself. And we know it's a large aquifer. I mean, there's no reason on earth that the city made a poor choice to have a second physical water supply in that location of the Big Chino, because it's a big aquifer. But then we start getting into storage and how much is in storage, and I just don't know if that's a conversation for today. So if it's a drought condition, then we like to know if we're in a, I shouldn't say that, but if we have had very little rainfall this year, then that just gives us one more data set for what 2020 looked like as compared to what it might look like in 1965 if we have records that far back. So
So
it's
also I
fun.
have a question too when you brought up the thing about the crops.
Yeah.
So do they look at, in the Verde Valley, I know there are a lot of crops, and I know they take out of the river to irrigate, right? Are they concerned about what's happening to the river at that level?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we haven't had the high chatter we used to, but 10 years ago, we had a lot of
I
discussion
know there's
around
the
the
Verde
Verde.
River Coalition, right? Or
But more so, it's the landowners there who have surface water rights and the Salt River Valley folks, SRP, who have
because that's
full
really where it
rights
seems that
claims to surface water there. So
Okay.
if your question is, are they looking at crop surveys in that area too, the USGS does do it because they are basically doing it across the state. So it's funded to look at those kind of things. And we're just fortunate that we didn't have to pay for that.
yeah.
So that's one of our cost savings that we had. If we had to figure out the demand side, I mean, we can look at the demand side for exempt wells out there. We can look at the demand side maybe for private water companies because they have to report. But if USGS wasn't looking at the crop patterns, the cropping out there, who knows who would have the time or the money to do that. So
Right.
we're, once again, we find our partnerships wherever we can, where there's commonality, and where we can find cost savings, it makes sense. And this one was one of those ones we thought, we're very fortunate here, because in our data collection plan back from 10 years ago, probably 12, because I wasn't working here at that time, they built the plan, and part of it had the cropping, because you need it to look at potential demands in the past and currently. But I hope to have those maps back in next year. If you look at previous annual reports, you'll see them in there. Okay, I'm going to fly because I think, where are we at? Yeah, we need to fly. It's 11 o'clock. But this will be online. I'm happy to give you a hard copy if you do want it. Just let me know. So this is a very large report about the ephemeral stream flow equipment out there. I'm going to grab this and roll down because it's a big report. I'm glad you said that.
You plan on,
Okay, and then, oh, yes, sir.
do we plan on having this as a council study session item?
I think we might be a little bit in the early stages. As I said, I post everything up, so every council member and public, everybody can look at the annual report and see what's happening with the project. I think when we start tying things down into that groundwater model tighter, then there'll come time that we need to be looking at those things. But you're kind of in a little bit of a holding pattern because science doesn't happen overnight.
Is this something that, I guess it would be something that I would like to see in a hard copy? Is it
Okay.
something that's available? 'Cause I think each one of the council members and the mayor should have a hard copy to be able to, make asterisks and questions and stuff, so then when it does come time for presentation, that we're abreast of what's going on with it, instead of looking at it and going, oh, wow, after the presentation is over, now I got a bunch of questions. So I think
Absolutely.
us being prepared before you make that charge to council would be a good thing.
Okay, so are you looking for a copy of this, the 7th annual report for this
Yes, ma'am.
project? Okay. Okay. Got
I
it.
agree.
Okay. And just so you know of how this report's built, the groundwater level monitoring, all the wells are tabulated so that we can even keep track of everybody. Stream flow monitoring, and then the climate that's added in there, including the weather station. So here again, wonderful partnership with Yavapai County Flood Control. If we had to put these equipment in and monitor them ourselves, it would not work in our budgets. You know, they already have that set up in their budgets to do these things, so we piggyback. They need to know about flood. We need to know about any water that's coming down that channel. And then the maps. And so if you want to have a visual of where these things are, so this is the monitoring program project, and it just shows you where the different wells and items are at, hydrographs, to see what each equipment's doing. So the maps are really wonderful. We almost had to pitch these this year, but we just worked really hard to keep them in. The surface water monitoring map, we haven't broken them down into the northern area and the southern area because the Big Chino is truly big. Weather stations, and that's it. That is the end of the report. So as I said,
Just a little bit of information.
package as tight as we could. So that is actually the end of the focus topic. I will be sure, as I said, I just finished it up last week, so it'll be posted on the city's website. It's out to the parties already, so if we did have any errors on my part that I need to fix a typo, we'll go back in and fix it and reload it if we need to. We'll make copies, 7 copies,
I'm
and
looking
provide
forward to
those.
that because I'm looking forward to the maps and all the things that have taken place. We've been waiting a long time to have, something in our hands to look at, so.
Right, well, every year, the annual report is issued.
Right.
So, and even if you want to go back in time, but final reports are different. So this isn't considered a final report, this is just an annual report on what we got done this year.
Well, that's
So-
a good way to put it because everybody wants to
Everybody wants to find out.
everybody wants to get to the finish line too quick. So anyway, I appreciate the presentation, even though it was brief. I know there's a lot of information to cover and we're constrained by time. We've got another meeting right after this. Any questions? Yes,
Just
Billy.
a real quick, so Leslie, you've said a couple of times today, the Big Chino is big. The aquifer is very large. What's,
What does that mean?
yeah, well,
Put some numbers on it?
yeah,
So the Bureau of Reclamation looked at it quite a while ago, and they estimated 15 million acre feet were in that basin.
15 million.
Million acre feet.
That's amazing.
Yeah, put your arms around that.
Yeah. And Steve, were you on council when that was done? When it's
Yes.
yeah. Good for you.
And it's just been a long time coming. I don't think I could be here for another 20 years and it ever end. I mean, water's been an issue in Arizona forever. And I think the bottom line of what we can do as a community is just make sure we're doing what we're doing and we're doing it well. And I consider us having one of the best water portfolios in the state. It's been demonstrated many times over again, and you hear it out there. And I think we keep pushing for conservation and
Right.
things to make us that much better.
We were on the radio with Chairman Brown this morning. We talked quite a bit about water, and he was very complimentary. Don't you think, Steve, of the city?
Yeah, I agree, Billy.
Yeah.
You do have one public comment, Chairman.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Leslie.
I just have a couple of questions and one request for Leslie Grazer. The questions are the Golder technical memos public? And I'll just ask them all at once and then she can answer. And then I wasn't clear to me whether climate projections are specifically going to be part of the modeling. And then my third thing is on the website, the reports from the previous years are in different sections, and I wonder if it'd be impossible to put them all in sequentially in one little section where they are on the website. And that's it.
Hang on, Leslie. She's going to answer what she can at the point she's pulling something up on the computer as we speak. Oh, they're all together.
Okay, would you like me to address those questions now, Councilman, or?
Yeah, if you can run through
Okay,
it real quick.
so the first question was the technical memos. So those are all held in draft right now because they lead into the modeling report. So
Okay.
unfortunately, those are not available at this time because things could still change as they build, if, for whatever reason. So they're all in draft at this moment.
Okay.
The second question was related to, remind me, does somebody remember the second question?
Climate.
Climate, oh, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. I thought I had it in my head. So part of the modeling contract talked about precipitation variability. And so if we can work that into this report, we will. It was one of those items, it was a wish list because we didn't have enough money to do everything, we wanted to do, of course. And that's running scenarios. But that launches us into a whole nother topic. So the quick answer right now for the question is precipitation variability, which is kind of like climate change or whatever you want to term it. We have the potential to move that into the model pending available funding.
Okay.
And then the last one, just so everybody can see where it's at, on the website, the project documents, all the annual reports are lumped together. So you'll see the seventh one be placed here. And then for the monitoring, when we had contracts come in and resulting deliverables, this is where I put them. So all the monitoring's here. And then the modeling, we're just starting to load up some of the things that are available. So, for example, the draft technical memos, they are draft. They won't be placed on the website here. But yeah, everything's all on one page. Just look for the heading that you're looking for. I wish we could do it another way, but we have such a tree that it would probably be miserable, I'm afraid. So look under project documents, annual reports, seventh one will be here, and then as other elements, the other contracts that we have on monitoring, things come into play, I post them, and monitoring is the next major, or modeling is the last major heading.
So Leslie, if you're listening and you cannot find it or having difficulty doing so, you can call Leslie and she can help walk you through it. Right, Leslie?
See where it is now. So thank you very much. I might have been looking in the wrong place, but anyway, that's very helpful, and thank you. You answered all my questions.
Thank you, Leslie. Okay. Anything else from Mr. Shisker? Or
I move we adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
I second. All in favor of adjourning? We're done.